the Nike community flagship factory store in Northeast Portland will not be reopening. Today, the Seoul District Business Association was informed that Nike will permanently close and vacate the store on Northeast MLK Jr. Boulevard.
So let's talk about how the wokest company in America had to finally admit defeat in Portland and say, defund the police is a disaster for business, and close their store. Now, for all of you who don't know, Nike has been doing these campaigns with Colin Kaepernick, LeBron James, and essentially they're saying that America is racist and we can't, like it says here, don't pretend there's not a problem in America. And the problem was allegedly systematic racism, that there was wholesale racism in every facet of the American life, especially when it comes to policing. And the problem wasn't the people who were committing crimes, it was the police who were trying to stop people from committing these crimes. So that brings us to Portland, Oregon. Now, Portland, Oregon bought into the defund the police and the police are racist narrative 1,000%. And what they did was defund their police department and considered a hands-off approach when it came to handling the petty crimes like shoplifting and burglaries and so forth. They essentially deemed police to be racist, and that the criminals who were doing the crimes were essentially the victims, and their mentality was to take away as much money from their police department as possible and not really care about the crimes and stuff that go on because there was an inherent racism in trying to prevent criminal activity. Here's the mayor explaining how he's defunding the police department. This is back in 2020.
We propose to redirect over $7 million from the police bureau and $5 million from other city funds directly to communities of color, reinvesting $12 million. We're going to dissolve the gun violence reduction team, the school resource officer program, and the transit specialty units. We'll stand with the Oregon Legislative People of Color Caucus to fight for urgently needed reforms, and with our federal delegation to reform the qualified immunity doctrine. We'll ban chokeholds. We'll create a private right of action for intentional discrimination by law enforcement. And we'll reform the use of consent searches in traffic stops, amongst other things.
So now the effects on the community were dramatic, and I mean dramatic. Here's a news report to show you how bad it got in Portland after these measures were put in place to defund the Portland Police Department.
According to statistics from the Portland Police Bureau, burglaries, car thefts, and thefts of personal property, described as larceny, have increased each of the last 3 years. In 2021, the Bureau's Property Crimes Unit reviewed more than 5,000 reports, but only assigned 141 cases and made only 36 arrests.
Out of about 5,000 property crime reports filed with the Bureau, only 141 cases were assigned and only 36 arrests made. Those numbers don't sound like they line up. Could you explain what's going on there?
I'd have to look at those numbers specifically, but I do know we have moved detectives from our property crimes investigations to investigate other things. Right now, a lot of our investigative resources are focused on gun violence. You know, some of that has come from property crime.
Now, look how bad it has gotten. Look at this chart. Just look at it. Just look at it. There were 5,184 reports of property crimes. They only arrested 36 people. 36 people out of all of those cases? That's insane. That's insane. All of those property crimes. You know what that means? That means there's not enough support to deal with property crimes. And that's what that means. So if you're just allowing people to commit property crimes wholesale and you're okay with it because their skin looks like mine, what are you going to do? Of course, people are going to commit more and more and more crimes, and now it's gotten to a point where it's out of control. And even look at these numbers. Motor vehicle thefts went from about 7,000 2 years ago to almost double. We're at 12,000? Everything is going up dramatically. But again, we're talking about defunding the police. That's what we're talking. That's what this is showing us. This is showing us they're defunding and limiting police, and the way they're doing is having a dramatic effect on crime. Dramatic. And not only property crimes are really taking a hit, but look at the murder count. Look at this.
Portland's defunding its police department may have backfired. In Oregon, Mayor Ted Wheeler is now asking for $2 million in emergency funding to deal with the surge in gun violence. An op-ed in the Washington Examiner notes that the city's murder rate has increased 2,000%. That is sad.
So murder rate's 2,000%. Crime is crazy. You know, we got 5,000 property crimes, but only 36 arrests. Nobody's being held accountable, right? Because the police are the racists. The police are the problem, people. That's what these people are giving us. The police are the problem. So the good people of Portland can't leave, right? It's the Nike can though. Nike's $1 billion company. We're gonna close the store and leave. So you know what Nike decided to do? We're getting the hell out of here. But to give Nike some credit, they tried. This is what they were going through, what Nike was going through. Check this out.
It bleeds into surrounding neighborhoods.
They'll just walk from the Nike store, come down here.
Oftentimes with armful of clothes and sneakers. Paul Greenidge is a pastor at New Song Community Church in Northeast Portland. It sits just a block away from the Nike community store, which has become a target for thieves. They come running through the church parking lot with stolen merchandise all the time.
That's what Nike was going through. It wasn't even close. People were just walking out with tons and tons of stuff. Nobody's paying for that stuff. And if you call the police, they're not coming, right? They only got 36 people have been arrested. Why? Because it was the police who are the racist. It was the police who were the problem. These people right here are victims. The criminals are the victims. So Nike was like, well, listen, we're losing millions and millions of dollars of stuff coming out the store. The store's losing money, losing mass amounts of money. We can't just have the store there so people just walk in and take the stuff out without paying. So they asked the mayor, they said, well, can we at least hire off-duty police officers to be in the store to stop people from stealing? And this is what the mayor said.
Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler is asking Nike to reconsider opening up its neighborhood community store in Northeast Portland after it closed late last year. While the mayor says the city cannot accommodate Nike's request for off-duty officers to act as security at the store.
In a letter sent last month, Nike asked the city if they could contract and fully pay for off-duty police officers to act as security to ensure the safety of their employees and customers, saying they needed a solution in place by May 1st this year. But last week, Mayor Wheeler responded saying that's not feasible. He says the Bureau is currently understaffed, and while they've hired new officers, the largest hurdle right now is the backlog of trainees going through the academy.
So now they're not able to have the proper security in the store. People could just walk in and take stuff. And it got so crazy, like the law was so crazy there, that the security guards who were in the Nike store couldn't stop someone who was shoplifting. So if you were shoplifting, you could just take the clothes out and security was unable to stop you. Think about that. Security was unable to stop you. So Nike said, well, we got to close this store, right? The mayor won't help us even hire off-duty. We're talking about people who are working, people who are off-duty who want to come in and work for us. We'll pay for that. City says no. So Nike did what it had to do. Here's the report.
As we documented last year, thieves often ripped off armloads of Nike shoes and clothing with no fear of being arrested. We saw it firsthand. Security guards contracted by Nike admit they're forbidden from physically stopping shoplifters. The store quietly closed a year ago, and Nike has really been silent about its future until today. Nike tried working with City Hall and requested off-duty Portland police officers provide security at the community store, but the mayor said no.
So at the end of the day, Nike, who is promoting this whole America's racist, it's the criminals who are the victims now, they have had to go through it for all this time. For these past 3 years, they've had to go through this and now have said, finally, we can't continue to do this. We have to close this store. And they need a police. They were the police are racist. They go to the mayor and talk about, we need police. We're going to hire the off-duty police. The mayor's like, no, they're closing permanently. Why? Because I think now they realize the police aren't racist. There may be some racists working in the police department, no doubt about it. But police inherently aren't racist. They are something that you need to keep people in check. That's what they call the line, right? The thin blue line between anarchy and our way of life. And you need law enforcement. You need people to be held accountable. And just because you're black does not give you the right to rob someone's store and to take all their stuff and then complain that, hey, it's because of racism in the past is the reason why I'm able to do it. This has always been ridiculous. And Nike has been in the forefront of all this. So that's why I'm pretty happy to see that they now had to suffer through it. They've had to pay millions of dollars because they pushed these woke policies, and now remember, this was their original factory store, their flagship store. They've had to close permanently because security is just so bad. They just can't do it, right? So they always say if you go woke, you go broke. And Nike, I think, is dealing with that in Portland. They went super woke. Portland went super woke. And now they're losing millions of dollars, and they're losing, places like Nike, who, again, if you're in Portland and you want to go to the first Nike, so this was huge for tourism too. They've lost that. They've lost all of that. Why? Because they didn't want to understand the reality of the situation. And the reality of the situation is what happened to George Floyd. And I'm going to say this, what happened to George Floyd wasn't about race. I understand people want to believe that, right? It's just like with the US soccer stuff. People want to believe that. I understand that. But it's just not true. Read the court documents. I even tell people, don't believe me. Read the court documents. Read everything about that case. Race is not even mentioned in the court documents, right? It's not even mentioned. If they believed that Chauvin killed Floyd because of his race, they would have charged him with that. They couldn't prove anything like that because it just wasn't true. It just wasn't true. But now Portland is suffering with it. New York is, all these other places are suffering with it for something that was never actually even true. Police reform, maybe how to handle situations may need to have been adjusted. Yeah, putting your knee on someone's neck for 8 minutes, that was kind of crazy. No, it wasn't kind of crazy. It was criminal, right? It shouldn't have been done. But at no point, how did that turn into it was racist? You understand what I mean? Two things can be true. What happened to Floyd could have been horrible, ridiculous, and criminal. But that doesn't mean it was racist. It just doesn't mean it was racist. And no matter how many times I say that into this camera, there are going to be people out there who call me a coon, who say this, these negative things about me, all because I'm telling you the truth. And then as soon as I say, just point to it in any of the court documents, where they put all the evidence in front of the jury, right? Show me. It's not there. Only reason why I know because I read them. It's not there. Tell me where I'm wrong in the comment section. Tell me if you feel sorry for Nike, their situation. Because don't get me wrong, I do, part of me understands wanting to be on the right side of history, but this isn't the right side of history. It's the right side of lunacy. I'll see you next time. Peace.